Well, hello guys out there, and welcome to another episode of Wine Down Wednesday with your girl Keisha. And of course, I'm Keisha, your very flippant host. And I have a special guest on here tonight. I want to welcome the very beautiful Coach Cassie G, who's going to be joining us in our conversation tonight. And of course, we have Justin, our male perspective, who's always going to give us a real perspective from the young male's version point of view. So tonight, of course, guys, I had to come home and get me a glass of wine because I had a long day. So tonight I'm sipping on Bogle. It's a California Red 2022. This is this wine is a little bittersweet wine. It's really a deep red wine. It's very berry filled, and it tastes just like berries. Some dark berries are in it, and usually when you have like a berry flavored wine or berry tasting wine, it pairs good with chocolates. And of course, for those who like that good charcuterie board, you can do your cheeses and grapes. And me, of course, red wine always pairs well with some red meat. I don't eat red meat, but I do like lamb. So I don't eat beef or pork, y'all, but I will eat a good lamb every now and then if it's cooked right. So, with that being said, let's dive on into this topic, y'all. What's going on? I'm hearing an echo. So, so yes, y'all. So tonight's topic, we're gonna be talking about, how we say yes until sometimes we can't sleep at night. And of course, our topics is always informational about how we take care of ourselves, right? And that's very important in today's time because we have these jobs that are very strenuous, and I don't want everyone going home thinking that their relief is a it's a good relief. But we don't want to make this a habit. We have to find some other positive ways to
Absolutely.
kind of debrief and pour light into ourselves, right? So
Absolutely.
so with that, I had a question. I was waiting on Justin. Is he back? Okay. So
You can see
Justin,
me? Okay.
I can see
I'm
you
making sure we
and hear
good.
you, sir. I can see you and hear you. Welcome, welcome,
Okay.
welcome. So I did a little, I already introduced you guys as you were fixing your camera, but I just want to do like a little guest check-in, y'all. So before we get deep into the topic, I just want to ask both of y'all a good question. So since our topic is focused tonight on people pleasing, and we're gonna get into your mega stallion later, Justin, because I know that's gonna be a whole conversation right there because we're gonna lead into that. But I mean, when you think of people pleasing, what do you guys think of first?
Ladies first. I'm gonna let
Mm.
was that Coach Cassie? Yeah, I'm gonna let her start it all.
Ooh. So people pleasing. I like to joke with my team and my people that I used to have degrees, certifications, and PhDs from People Please University. So people pleasing is a huge betrayal and denial of self. You know, um, oftentimes when I say people pleasing, I would have people get offended and say, "Oh no, 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 that's not what I do. Oh no, I don't do that because I don't care about what people think." Because we think about, the guy in the movie that's sniffling and running up behind people, or that chick that is kissing butt and nobody likes him. We think of that image oftentimes, and that's not it at all. What I have come to realize is people pleasers are oftentimes they're the people out here doing the good work, they're going above and beyond in their communities, churches, or what have you for the family, the go-to people that, everyone in the family can count on and don't even realize that that is what they are doing. They are people pleasing, denying self for everybody else. So that's it. That's my spiel.
That's
Right.
that's interesting the way you just put that all out. Because like when I hear people pleasing, and I think most people we already like um direct that towards a negative, but you just brought something like positive, and I never thought of it that way. Like people pleasing can be looked at in a positive light. So yeah, I'm still processing that. That was a good outlook on that. Yeah, I always um thought of it as like a negative, like you trying to
Right.
please everybody. And it's hard to do that. Um,
Mhm.
but from your perspective, um, I mean, you could argue that you know charities are people pleasers. People that go out and give to the homeless do the yeah. So that was pretty interesting. Yeah, I
Mhm.
don't really have uh I don't think I can't follow that up. That was a good one. That was a good one.
But yeah, people pleasers are in every type of field that they are, but particularly in these fields where we're out here community healing, whether it's church, whether that is the charity itself, whether that is your state and local government, where you are of service in healthcare, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you show up with good intentions and good heart, you know, because two things can be true at the same time. That I can be being of service, and I can be fundamentally not loving myself well and taking great care of myself.
Yeah.
Those they're not separate things. And when we get into people pleasing, that tricky part is that so many of the things that people pleasers subscribe to do, being selfless, being caring, being committed, being loyal, you know, actually become traps for them to continue to put all the focus everywhere else except for themselves. And I know that was my truth for years, you
Yeah.
know.
And look, I think, as you know, because we were talking just a little bit before you jumped on, Justin, I'm people pleasing now, and my people pleasing is leading me to a burnout actually, because I'm supporting my clients. I show up for them all the time, but at the same token, I'm showing up for them. But I have personal things that need to happen, and I'm neglecting myself to support. And so, I am a social worker, so I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you. But at the
Mm,
same token, who is helping me?
come on now, come on.
That's where look, I'm done being a people pleaser. I was a police officer for a long time. That like you just talked about, you burned out. I was burned out. I was a teacher. My people pleasing days are over. And I know y'all speaking positively about it, right? But hey, like you said, Keisha, you burned out. I've been burnt out. I'm only 33. So look, more power to you, more power out there to the people pleasers. I can't do it no more. I can't. I'm done. So shout out to y'all.
Well, let me ask this, because this just crossed my mind, because I know we talk about trauma a lot, y'all, on this show. So I personally think that people pleasing is a trauma response.
And it is.
Could be, yeah.
So you hear a lot now, which you didn't hear it before, but you hear a lot of it now for the last several years about narcissism, right?
Mhm.
Narcissist this, narcissist that, right? Well, narcissism and people pleasers are on the same spectrum. Just one is on one end of the spectrum, one is on the other end of the spectrum, and they're both trauma responses. The only difference is that the narcissist showed up this way as a result of their trauma, and the people pleaser showed up this way. The people pleaser somewhere, whether it was in early childhood or what have you, decided, if I can anticipate everybody's needs, if I can go over, above, and beyond, if I can, make everything perfect, then I can avoid, the strain, the ridicule, the anxiety that comes up. Might not have had the language for that, but internally, oftentimes that's what's going on. You
Mhm.
know, you oftentimes see people pleasers, especially those that are just you can really look at and tell they also have maybe a smidge of perfectionism in them, right? Because things have to be just so. That's just trying to regulate your nervous system.
That makes sense. I knew of somebody who, like, when they didn't get the proper nurturing as a in their childhood. So as an adult, they was in every single social club you could think of. They created their own jogging club. They was just everywhere in the community. I'm like, yo, like, dude, you do a lot. And you know, I found out why on the back end, and this background was like, oh, and like you say, perfection, and this, everybody had to like him, and he had to do good by everybody else. Like, he couldn't stand if this person said, it couldn't even been nothing bad. It was like, oh, I don't like the hors d'oeuvres he served at this party over here. He's like, oh, and that was like a big deal. And he got to have better snacks for the next showing. You know, he had always been trying to one up himself. Everything was like, bro, that wasn't even a bad, like, you doing good. But so not only I feel like he was a people pleaser, like, and it was also like a reverse to where he also had to feel like that appreciation. And if it wasn't given back, then it was something wrong, and he had to one up himself to try to, you know, like you said, fit that criteria or that mode or the trauma that he was experiencing. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But can you imagine how exhausting it can be?
That is
for someone
I'm done
to live up to someone else's standards. And I mean, we do it every day. I mean, we are forced to do it within our employment at times, because if you're working for an organization, and even I think for yourself, you raise the bar. Like you said, if you're not gonna we one up ourselves to be perfect, to be that millionaire. We have people striving to be those millionaires, so we have built these expectations for ourselves that we have to meet. So I think you can't escape being a people pleaser, because you're gonna do it one way or the other. You just have to learn how to manage that and learn how to regulate. Like you said earlier, you need to regulate your nervous system to whereas you grow from having a need to feel needed, because that's our thing. We have to feel like we're important, that we're wanted, to know that I am enough and I'm gonna just sit in this. And when I do something, I'm doing it because this is something I want to do to better me.
Right. So I know where this is about to lead to, and I just want to ask this question why it's on my mind. It's about to lead to like the people pleasing. I feel like in terms of a relationship with your couple, with your significant other. Why nowadays in today's society it feels like, yo, like my woman or somebody else, man, you worrying about pleasing these other people, these strangers you don't even know. But when it come to me, where my people pleasing at? You know what I'm saying? It's like you on the back burner a lot of times. Now I don't know if that's because they take you for granted, or you know, you close enough to where so I just think like, and I'm not talking from like my own personal experience, I'm just saying you see that a lot in the world right now with relationships. People complaining about they girl and they man not doing this, or you going out and doing this, but you know, trying to please everybody else, but you can't stop on your way home from work and get me a personal pan pizza and a coffee. That's too much for you. But I'm asking for the things though. But you're going out your way at your job and stuff. So I just want to know what's y'all take on that, and do y'all see what I'm talking about in terms of, hey, you want to people please out here on TikTok and Instagram and all this other stuff, but your man right here, and it's like, what's going on?
Ooh, so okay, I see where we're going. So two things, and first, kind of circling back to that supply that hit that when we get the attaboys, the oh my gosh, you're so amazing, oh my gosh, you care so much, oh my gosh, you know, you changed my life. That's fuel for the people pleaser, you know, that makes the people pleaser feel great. They need to hear that. We talk about what the narcissist needs to hear, but the people pleaser needs to hear those things too, right? Whether it is, again, from some of the lack, or whether it is from what it is that they think that they need to do in order, again, to regulate their nervous system. Again, they don't have a frame of reference, but that's what's happening. So they need to hear that in order to regulate. That's a part of their whole thing, right? So that's one part. The other thing is that you're going to get your hit, okay? Whether that is within a relationship or without, right? Part of this is just being human. So if you don't feel seen, heard, safe, loved, cared for at home, if your voice is not being valued, or at least you perceive that it's not being valued at home, you still going to seek, and this is just being human, you're going to seek a form of joy. You're going to seek a form of validation. You're going to seek a form of attaboys, even if that means it's going to be at work, at the church, in the community, in the passion project you created. You're going to seek that out because as human beings in need of connection, you will seek it where you can find it. Now, it may be the illusion thereof, but when you don't have the emotional intelligence yet to understand that you are neglecting this for the sake of that, that's how it shows up. But as people, we are going to go and you're going to get the validation. For one, it's a survival mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be all dry and bad all the time. You won't make it long, it's seasons or what have you, but you have to have something that gives you the sliver of hope that is going to be all right. Right. And so sometimes that is for a lot of people, not just the people pleasers, that I'm going to go out here and this is where I'm going to get it because I don't know. I don't have the emotional intelligence. I don't feel seen and heard. I don't have the tools yet to have the tough conversations that maybe need to be had at home. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to get it over here, and that is a people thing, but it can be even more challenging with the people pleaser because now they're in overdrive over here to do it.
Mm-hmm. So what if they get in it? What if they get in it? What if your significant other is trying their best to please you or show you the attention, that nurturing, whatever it is you may want, and people still go outside a relationship, they still try to maybe look a certain way for because sometimes you could tell your girl or your man, hey, you find the way you gotta like this, but it's not enough. And I think it's not enough because maybe society is saying it's not enough, or they homegirl look a certain way, or they see this girl here looking a certain way, so they feel like they gotta keep up with the Joneses and go do that type of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you. The real reality of is two things. One, it may not be enough because what we oftentimes do when we're loving people or attempting to love people is we love them the way that we think that they need to be loved. The golden rule is do unto others as they would have them, you would have them do unto you, right? The reality of it is that it's so flawed because what I need may be completely different from what you need. And so you loving me so fiercely based on what you would want and what you would appreciate, and they don't meet any of my needs. They don't tick any of my boxes because it is not what I need at all. And if I have been silenced as a child, if I had to be seen and not heard, and I didn't know how to use my voice and advocate for myself, if I didn't know that I could say, hey, this is nice, but I don't actually want no Gucci purse for Valentine's Day. That's not to me. You could make me an intentional handcrafted card, and the thought that you put into that would mean so much more to me, or showing up and taking me somewhere because I like to get up out of here. I have a stressful job and I need to go somewhere, and we don't ever go nowhere, but I can't say that. Then that could be a thing too. The other side of that coin, and there, mind you, this is multifaceted, but just some things for perspective, is that when we don't know how to love ourselves, and this gets back to the people pleasing, we can't say what we want anyway, because we've been so outwardly focused that you may be your partner may be asking you what you want, and you can't even say it. You can't even say when you know what it is that you want, and you may not even know when the last time is that you truly thought about what it is you want. So now you have a partner who has done the work, who's trying to be attentive, pay attention, and all the things, and they're doing their part. But if that person who is still deep in people pleasing, who hasn't done the internal work to build up their emotional intelligence, to pay attention to their needs, to know their triggers, know the things that hurt them and how they react to those things, then you can be doing all the things. If they don't know those things, they may not be in a place where they can even accept them. And so what happens is when we don't know ourselves, we don't know our value, we don't understand that it's easy to go out and cheat or do things to sabotage the relationship because you don't even know who it is that you are. When you have a sense of who you are and you've done the work, you lean into it, even though it's scary, even though it's painful, there's a level of that it becomes so much easier to stay committed to someone else because you have first learned to be committed to you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And
speaking of cheating,
you say what now?
I said, speaking of cheating, Keisha, you know where we're I'm gonna let you. Yeah, I'm gonna let you go in and do your rebuttal, and then we probably go lead. That's a great point to lead into on the topic we were supposed to do that last week.
Yeah. So and not so much of a rebuttal, but I just want to add on to that is that not knowing ourselves, it kind of prohibits us from communicating effectively, because sometimes we think that we're communicating to our partners or our friends or whomever, and we're not communicating to them. And this is something that I tell people all the time, even working in the service industry. Everyone communicates differently.
That's
like
right.
You mentioned your partner may bring you a Louis Vuitton bag or a Gucci bag home thinking that he's showing you, baby, I love you. But sometimes I just need you to tell me the words and not give me these monetary things, which is a way of people pleasing, your way of people pleasing, because you feel like you have to give monetarily in order to get something back from me. When I would just appreciate just you running a bath water for me or cooking me a pot of some grits and eggs. I would love that if you would just cater to me in that way instead of doing it in just a way where I don't even have to think of anything. I don't have to communicate with you. I don't have to use words to express myself. And then society has made it whereas, we have to live up to these certain standards in relationships with friends. It's just really, I just want to say, in today's society, we lead with people pleasing. I'm gonna go back to that. We lead with that, and not knowing ourselves makes us fall into these situations where if we don't know ourselves, we actually don't know what we want from other people because we're not self-aware. And I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna go into this. I look at Megan Thee Stallion and her many relationships, just as we talked about Cardi B. You have to recognize that these young ladies, and I'm gonna say this again, they don't have the support systems that they have. If you have someone around you, and social media is always telling us yes, 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 whether it's wrong or if it's wrong to social media, you're gonna have 99.9 of the people out there saying, oh girl, get it, this is it, this is what you need to do, you need to go right from one man to the other, that's gonna get you where you need to be. And they are not fully healed and they're not healed at all. And now they've stuck in another situation where they're put in a predicament where now they're people pleasing, not communicating effectively because they don't know the correct words to communicate what their needs and wants are. And I think that's what's happening with these young ladies that are in these industries.
First of all, let me just say this, because I'm not into like I had to Google, like I've heard, of course I've heard of Gucci and I know, but this is my first time actually Googling like a price for a bag. And I'm gonna say this: if they got dudes out there buying a chick's Gucci bags because they think that's what the chick wants, and blah blah blah, ain't no way. 2,250. Whatever dude is just buying, thinking that's what she like. She had to have shown or told him that that's what she like, because just to go out and buy this bag, like I don't know, because you said something about just running the hot bath water in a bowl of grits. I could do that 24/7, 365 days a week. I do. Look, I'll sign me up, because $2,250 for a bag is ridiculous. So to me, if we got dudes doing that, something had to have told them, oh, this what she like, because I don't know about that. But anywho, back to the Megan Thee Stallion, Klay Thompson situation. I don't know who the viewers right now, if y'all not familiar, real quick rundown. Megan Thee Stallion, a successful female music artist, rapper, whatever you want to call it. Klay Thompson, a very, very successful NBA player, Hall of Fame, that stuff. They made their relationship public, and then I think less than a year later, she posted that and made a whole outburst that he cheated on her and yada yada yada. I think it blew up the way it did is because at first, when she first got with the dude, all the women, oh yeah, you guys, because Klay Thompson, he very low key. He not one of those dudes who his off the court life is not as public as maybe some other celebrities, right? And he come off to me as very homebody-ish, chill, laid back type of dude. So, and you know, Megan Thee Stallion, her personality a little different, you know. So when they got together, you got all the women coming like, oh, you got you a good one now, yada yada yada. And then, as you can see, he ended up cheating allegedly. So you ask yourself, when you talk about these young women and them putting their self in like the same situation over and over again, I always ask this question as a woman, when you dating and you checking off the boxes for what you want in a man and all this other stuff. You look at a Klay Thompson, yes, I mean he a very charming, good looking dude. He got money, he low key. But my question is, this type of dude, do you think that you gonna be able to come in and be the one and the only one, and for how long? So is there like I don't want to use the D word, which is delusion, but sometimes I gotta ask that question, like what is it to where a woman goes and what they call them high value, high status men, where we kind of know the stigma that surrounds them. Like I always tell like younger dudes, your access to women depends on the type of environment you in. You don't got to be rich, but if you a club promoter or you have some type of career or job where you're exposed to a lot of women all the time, your access to women is gonna be higher than, you know, a dude who work remotely and play video games all day. So I know I went on a rant, but yeah, that's my question. What do y'all think of these women who they skip on that ladder to, oh, this the type of man I want? They skip like your average does who are like more likely to be faithful and not cheat, and they skip those guys because they think you know, the money and the status is better, and then they end up in the predicament, in the situation that Megan found herself in, heartbroken and angry.
Well, you've said a lot there.
Yeah.
I must say that, you know, outside of always appreciating Meg the Stallion as a fellow Aquarius, and her no nonsense as far as it goes with how she conducts business and, you know, her success in her career, I really don't follow her or Cardi like that. As a woman who's much more mature than both of them as far as age goes, I see both of them continually blowing through stereotypes, blowing through all the limitations others put on them. They have continually raised the bar in their own lives, despite, you know, a lot of the challenges that not just people in general, but men in particularly put on them, you know. So there's that right there. Both of these women have pretty much self-made themselves, you know. So them going after the perceived high value men, which is a very, you know, with love, toxic term. It's kind of right in line with toxic masculinity. Them going after what society would deem a high value man. First of all, they're high value women. You know,
say it again.
Just because their job and what they do creatively maybe means that they are wearing scanty clothing, shaking their booties or what have you, and having sexually suggestive lyrics. Nobody does that to, what's his name? Sean Carter. You know, nobody looks at him like that. The lyrics that he was making back in the day that laid the foundation for him to be where he is and catch a Beyonce, you know. But we do this to women all the time. And I think just with love, just being mindful that you can be high value. And even using that as an example, dude cheated on Beyonce. You know, when people cheat, that has everything to do with that person and more than it does with the person that they cheated on, because that's a decision that you make. Even if it is out of heartbreak, revenge, out of what have you, it's still a decision that you have to make, you know, and that's a choice on you. Now, when we get to the point about you know, skipping over men or skipping over the steps that one needs to heal, as Keisha was talking about. Yes, everybody, not just the women, the men too, really need way more time to take the time in the healing process in between relationships. Why? Because relationships are hard on a good day.
Yes.
When you need one, you need time to heal and connect back to yourself, to get used to the idea of being by yourself, to grieve the relationship. And that is something that just overall is not celebrated enough, you know. And there are people that take the time to do that and still find themselves in a situation. That doesn't mean that they didn't do the work. We don't know what tears they cried. We don't know what therapy sessions they went to, coaching, counseling, all the things. We don't know the behavior changes they did behind the scenes in order to get to where they are. What we see is what is put across, you know, before us. And that's even in relationships right in front of us and around us, you know. But I will say that time is needed in between relationships, because the person that you started that relationship as is not the person that you come out of the relationship as. You've grown, you've changed, you've had a number of things happen, and you are not the same. And that's the necessarily a terrible thing, but it does mean that just like many other things that happen, you need time to grieve and you need time to release and you need time to heal before jumping in foot first into other relationships. Otherwise, you run the risk of basically getting the same type of person with a different look, a different status, just, version 2.0 of
Mhm.
this type of person because you haven't done, as much work as you need to on you. And that's just, it's not a thing. It's that people oftentimes look at as much. It's this thing called healing is a journey.
It definitely is. I
It is.
always say, I'm so healed, I don't like nobody. And I don't even know if that's such a thing, but
That makes
I
sense.
don't I don't make excuses for behaviors anymore because people pleasing can lead into like negative things as well because they become accustomed of you being the people pleaser.
Right.
And just like you mentioned with Cardi B and Megan, like this stigma that society has placed upon them where they feel like they always have to rise to that occasion. And I was telling my son earlier, we were talking about something similar to this. Like I see so many podcasts and podcasters and bloggers come on where they are in full bloom character, like they are in a character. I mean I can't be in character. I can't be anyone but Keisha. So either you're gonna like me here and love me, or I'm not everyone's cup of tea. But I'm sorry, y'all. I can't be a character because I don't have the energy for that at the end of my workday to pop on and be somebody else. And then when you see me in the street and you run across me, and I may not feel like being in that character in that moment. I'm a real
Mhm.
person. So
Right.
I don't make excuses for anybody's behaviors anymore. And I had to learn how to not do that. Because
Mhm.
people, you have friends that do messed up things, and then you say, oh well, maybe she was having a bad day. That's why she did that, or this, that, another. Or you make excuses for your partners. Oh, well, yeah, he's having a rough time, so that's why he did that. No, you need to practice self-awareness and you need to be mindful of yourself and control your emotions and don't inflict me with your stuff.
Mhm. And
So go ahead, Doc.
no, it goes back to the two things can be true at the same time. As someone who endeavors and to walk and live in a very recovery minded way, yes, I can 100% understand that you maybe had some traumas, that you are going through stuff, that you maybe even are grieving or what have you. And I can also understand that I don't have to stay around to be abused by you. Those,
Mhm.
those two things can live at the same time.
Yeah.
And so we can have the conversations, we can do what we need to do. But if somebody continually is showing up in a way that is hurtful or not helpful, but we have a decision to make as to how we're going to love ourselves well. And that's part of that pulling back from the people pleasing as well, because we essentially teach people how to treat us. Now, we may
Yes.
have learned in childhood, based on what we went through, that this is how we had to show up to survive. But those things that we had to do to survive are not going to hold us in thriving. We have to
Exactly.
some of those things in order to lean into that authenticity, to be able to be that same person everywhere and not have to put on a different mask, because now you've poured in yourself enough to know yourself. And so now it's easier, not to say it's easy, but easier to stand up for yourself, to use your voice, to gently bow out of relationships and situations that just are no longer serving you. They may have served their purpose, it might have been fun at the time, but if
Mhm.
it's not helping you on this healing journey of you becoming a better you and y'all becoming better together, then yeah, it might be time to back away. I wanted to circle back to just a little bit to something that I don't think is oftentimes talked enough about too, is the infamous good guy.
Mhm.
The infamous good guy, and this is not male bashing at all. It's just something to take into consideration, and as a perspective. Oftentimes you have these good guys. They're good guys. They're not bad guys, right? You know, they take it out the trash. You know, they do
Hey, I'm a
work.
good guy.
Okay. They wash the car. Okay. They filling it up with gas, right? And all the hard, so everybody sees the good guy in y'all's life, right? But then all the decisions that require emotional toll, emotional regulation, require any weight and deep decision fall on their partner. And so, in addition to the partner carrying their own weight, they are also having to bear the weight of any real decision having to be made, of carrying it out, making the plans, taking the initiative. And that is exhausting. And then when sister gets tired, it's like, oh my gosh, why is she leaving? Why is she acting up? He was such a good man, you know? And it wasn't that he was a bad guy, but because he didn't take the time, oftentimes people pleasing, to pour into himself, to get to know himself, to do the work that she is likely forced to do just in order to keep her head above water, then that being a good guy is just not enough. Not enough. You can be a great guy and not be doing the intentional work to pour back into yourself, to get to know yourself and be honest with yourself, so that you can even be honest with your partner, you know? And that causes strain in a whole different way. And a lot of times we just don't talk about that. And those are things that we see behind the scenes, that this person is a great catch and a great, but then every time it's time to have a tough conversation, they ghost. They have to work late.
Yeah, that avoiding behavior shows up very quickly.
You know, all of a sudden, when we were supposed to go over these bills and stuff, that was the time that you had to early start the next day, so you had to turn in. You had to turn in.
Yeah, I don't know nothing about none of that. I ain't never had to go over bills with nobody. I don't know. So maybe I gotta step my game up. I don't know. But
Well,
yeah, I think when I look at it all, it's like when I talk about this type of stuff with friends, I think we as the common people, when I say common people, your everyday people, your non-celebrities, your 9 to 5s, the people out here that's just, you know, we don't got that spotlight on us. Besides like close friends and family, when we're measuring relationships, for the most part, we put a lot of stake into these more public relationships. We want to measure our stuff off that. And sometimes I gotta push myself back and be like, you know what? Maybe like 90% of the women out there are not or even the men are not the ones we're seeing with all this baggage and garbage that's being pushed on to us by social media, saying like, oh, if you're this type of dude, you still go get played, or if you this type of woman, you still go get played. It don't matter. But when like I said, when I from a male perspective, when I look at the common woman, they're not looking for all those high expectations that the social media tells us that they're looking for. Like you said, some of them just want you to run a bath water and stop and get them a McDouble and some fries on the way home. That's it. And if you do that, you know you out the doghouse. But I know from the male perspective, we keep seeing it keep getting pushed on to us by like these dating shows and the Pop the Balloon show that every woman is looking for this top tier guy who make this amount of money and look this certain type of way. And I think as not just as a man, but like women, so we gotta push back and understand that's not the reality of maybe the dating pool that we're actually in, and that the average person do put more stock into the little things and communication and emotion and all that stuff like that as well. But that's why I was saying with the, and I don't want to be one-sided, but I only can speak from a male perspective. That's what how my questions arise are Cardi B, and they are women that's made something of themselves. And you don't gotta depend on the money. You got your own money, you can move your own way. And I look at it as, I always see, and I'm only using high value whatever because that's how society likes to measure, and I don't have no other way for it. I always see high value men with, I'm just using this term, a less, what society would consider as a woman under them that don't make as much money on them. Maybe you got an NBA player bring in a woman who work at manager at Costco, and he'll wipe her up. But when you get a high value woman, you don't necessarily see them dating guys that lower tier guy. Like I've never seen like a high status woman making $350,000 a year dating the Costco guy. But you'll see that vice versa. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out, like, what is it from a female perspective that's like, okay, once I'm here, and they come on podcasts and say, oh, once I'm here, I need you making more than me or be on the same level. I don't necessarily ever hear guys saying, oh, I make this much, you need to, as a woman, need to be making where I'm at or above me. And that's why I think where women like Megan Thee Stallion, they find themselves in that, hey, well, I wanted a guy better than me, and that's what I got, and now I'm in that situation. Like I said, there's no better than anybody. I'm just using societal standards for that part. But what's y'all take on that?
But I think what you're talking about again, we're going back to social status with society expectations it has placed upon most of us, because not all of us has submitted to the social media what I need to be to be the it person in the room. So and I had this conversation about addictions, right? Because we all have some sort of addiction. We all are addicts of something. But something that we crave and we have a constant craving for as humans, we have the need to feel nurtured and loved. That's how we thrive, right?
Mhm.
We thrive off of that. Like it's just like a flower needs the rain, the sun, all of that nurtures and pours into the flower. So we are human flowers. So we are nurtured by the same thing. We have to have someone pouring into us. But some of us have a greater need and have that addiction to feel wanted, regardless to what whatever the accolade is. We always have to, like you mentioned earlier, have to have that one up all the time. That one up all the time. So having that lack of whatever the foundation was in your life, whatever you were lacking, whatever trauma happened to you at that point in time. Like my thing is, I have a fetish for, I collect clothes and shoes. I'm not a purse person, because when I was growing up, every time I started school, all my friends had an outfit for every day of the week, right? Their mom was able to buy them an outfit for every day of the week. That first week of school, all the children had, maybe 2 pair of tennis, 3 pair of tennis. They were coming to school fly. I had two outfits and 1 pair of shoes, and I better buy a pair of shoes that matched everything that I wore if I was going to buy tennis, because I wasn't getting another pair of shoes until maybe Christmas time. So as I started making my own money, My addiction is I never have enough clothes and I never have enough shoes because I was deprived of that as a child, right? So when I want to look style, even if I don't want it, I don't need it, I gotta have it some kind of way. I'm gonna go in the store and I have this thing now where I will go in the store, I call it feeling on stuff, right? I'll go and pick up a whole bunch of stuff that I like in the store. And by the time I get to the register, I'm on and checking out with one thing, but it just gives me
Oh,
joy.
Yes, yes.
that's why I don't go shop. That's why I don't go shopping with or no. I go by myself.
Yes.
I would have lost it.
I am not a shopper.
I'm like, baby, what we been in here for 3 hours for?
My
So-
sister and I shopped us out. We don't, neither one of us like shopping.
Amazon.
So we all have our own addictions, you know, as society feeds into us, like even from the time we are children, society has imposed their views on us. Like the children, you know, you go to school, the children dress fly, you want to dress fly. The girls had the ponytail, we all got a ponytail. I remember when I was in school, high school, everybody had Guess jeans. I had to have me a pair of Guess jeans and some chick jeans with the no pockets with the slits on the side. I had to have a pair of those. Then you know, whatever was the fad back then, you had to have it. So it's become a different type of thing now where social media, we didn't have social media then. So these girls are looking at Megan Thee Stallion, they're looking at the Cardi B's and the lifestyle that they're living in, things like that. Now, mind you, Cardi B was a stripper before she was a rapper. So, and then she's been into all types of things where she's always lived a fast life and had that fast money. You really don't know that much about Megan Thee Stallion herself. You know, both her parents are dead. So right there, her mother was a big influence in her life. The person that she was most closest to is no longer there. That's gonna feed her that honest truth and communicate with her
That's true. Yeah.
her rights and wrongs. So she's surrounded by like a team of people that if I don't agree with you, I could possibly lose my job. So she is surrounded by people pleasers. Therefore, she has become a people pleaser to society because she has to maintain a certain status, a certain look in order to be who she is, because she has to be in character 24/7. Every time she's shown on social media or wherever, she's in character. Very seldom you see her on TikTok or on social media where she's her true self. She's drinking, she's being her normal self, but then she gets backlash from that. But as long as she's in character, she's praised, she's an idol. She, regardless of however she dresses, how much she shakes her booty, they were calling her the Beyonce of rap at one time.
Yeah, it's like a movie. People want to, whatever they paid to see, that's what they want to see. They don't want to see all that, you know, they want to see what they pay for and what they expect out of your persona. And it's funny, like you say, I like how you connected, you went full circle, connected that to the people pleasing thing. And that go for most rappers and celebrities. That's not even just Megan Thee Stallion. You know, a lot of rappers, even going back to the 80s and 90s, that was all a persona. I mean, yeah, you got a couple of them who actually lived that type of that lifestyle. You know, 50 Cent, we all know he got shot and all that other stuff and yada yada yada. But that makes a lot of sense that you bring it around. You know, because the topic was people pleasing, and when you done made all this money and you done made a career off this persona, somebody who you may not be at all. That pressure of having to live that every day, all day, that's I think that's where that trauma come in, and that's got to be tough. That's got to be tough because once, like you said, your fans, this what they expect out of you now. Whether it's positive or negative, if you came into this with this this is what we need to see all the time, or else, you know, we gonna go look for the next person who could provide what we came here to see. So yeah, that people pleasing stuff, it is more than just it's more than just, to me, what it looks like on the surface. It has all these branches that it sticks out to that could heavily affect your life. But like we said in the beginning too, there's some positive people pleasing, and you know, now that I know that, I'm gonna go out and just try to be a people pleaser just a little bit more in a positive way. I know I sound retired. I'm done with that, but you know, now that y'all done brought up the positive of that, maybe I should, you know, get back on that boat.
Well, but before you hop in on the boat, let's take a second here. When in sharing the good things that people pleasers oftentimes are doing, it didn't mean in any way to say that was all positive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times
so it's not positive. Oh,
no,
well, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Go ahead.
It's deflection. You know, as community healers, there's no amount of good work that you can do that it was going to make up for the internal work that you have to do on yourself. But if you're
that's true.
Giving and going above and beyond for everybody's cause except your own, what time do you have to pour into yourself? What time do you have to rest? What time do you have for self-care? You know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like you were talking about the persona that the celebrities face. At the end of the day, people are people, and that doesn't matter where you're making billions of dollars a year or you making $7.15 or $7.25 a day, you know, an hour. The reality of it is that people are people, right? So if you you can still be people pleasing, still need that hit of dopamine that helps you to say that, hey, you're doing something great and impactful in the world, you know, and you get that with the attaboys, you know, you get that with people saying these good things, you know, that doesn't mean that you're taking the time to pour into yourself. And you still have to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're just running in the same circle. You're not taking the time to pour into you, and it looks good, and you're getting the same bump of dopamine that the celebrities are getting from the quote unquote persona, right? You're just getting it in your local community, on your local job, in the church on Sunday morning when pastor make the announcement and call on you again, you know, in the precinct or wherever, you know, you're getting that same hit of dopamine for saying that you're a great person, when in all actuality, it's not that you're not a good person, not that you're not a great person, but you're taking so much time focused outward that you're not putting anything in. Over time, that is what leads to burnout. That is what leads to other health challenges, you know, physical health challenges, and not to mention how it can long-term have the effects on your mental and emotional health and your personal relationships. So no, we weren't saying that is good. We're saying that the idea of what people pleasing is oftentimes been misconstrued. And a lot of times we see them every day. We work beside them. I was for decades and decades. That's what I was. And I was running the wheels off my vehicle, doing all the things I could. And when I got home, all I had to do the energy to do was just tuck her out. My family paid for that. I paid for that, you know, and I saw this in other people out here doing good work. So it's not that you shouldn't do good work. It's not that you shouldn't wear the persona. If that's what you like to do, and especially if you're an actor and actress and you need to have a separation of church and state of who you are that needs to be protected versus what everybody else sees, because you're constantly attacked all the time. Neither of these things are bad. The challenge is when you put so much focus on it that you're no longer pouring into yourself, or for many of us, that you never did. And so that leads to burnout. That leads to not even have the capacity to make the better decision and choices for the people that we have around us. Because when you are exhausted, what mental and emotional capacity do you have really to make the best choice for you? It's diminished.
Right.
Because you have.
You have nothing left. And that goes back to say you can't take care of other people if you don't take care of yourself. That's just the bottom line. And that's what people pleasing looks like in real life. We take care of other people. We don't take care of our needs. We don't take care of ourselves. Because let me tell you, I will take off from work if I start to feel like they're working on my nerves. I will take me a couple of days off to reset myself. Just as with any relationship that I have, if I feel that relationship is becoming too much and I'm exhausted every time I have to interact with this particular situation, I'm going to shut down. I'm going to back away, reset, and I'm going to have to think some things over to figure out, even if I love you to death and you're a person that sucks life out of me, I'm going to have to step back and figure out, how can I support you in a way that's healthy for me?
And I'm glad you said that, because when we talk about boundaries, people think that that's some bad word, or it's the new generation's way of just not wanting to be interconnected. When in all actuality, all healthy boundaries is of saying, this is how I can love you and love me at the same time.
Yes.
That's what it is. This is how I can do this. Now, that boundary might look different in different seasons of our lives. It might look different in different relationships, but it is still saying the same thing. This is how I can love and support you and me at the same time.
So my cousin was I guess she was trying to ask a question. So I'm gonna answer Tiffany's question. She said, whose body count is probably higher, Meg or Clee? And more importantly, why is only one of them judged for it? She said recent memes with Meg's body count. She's saying, why don't men challenge each other the way they degrade women?
Body counts
cut off
is not
for a little bit, so I had to come back on. Read that question again.
Okay, so we gonna get to this, answer her question, and then we gonna wrap up, y'all. Because I just want to.
I gotta hear that question.
So the question is, she said, whose body count is probably higher, Meg or Clee's? She said, and why? And more importantly, why is only one of them judged for it? She said, recent memes that have Meg's body count. She's saying, why don't men challenge each other the same way they degrade women?
I'm gonna go real quick, and then I'm gonna let Coach Cash go. And this is my personal opinion and perspective based on how society works. It's not necessarily my outlook. The reason why that's the case is because when I look at how us as men look at our peers and how women look at us, and then vice versa, how women look at their female peers and how men look at them. When we see a guy who is getting all these women, we look at that guy like he's like Yoda or something, like teach me, like how are you. What is it? Because we know the average woman won't even give us a double take when walking down the street. So how are you doing this? And I also, and this is my opinion, women look at that guy as, what is it about him that have all these women lining up for him? It has to be something good, because on a regular day, that's just not the case. Your average dude, there's not women lined up out the door for him. But for these men who have that, we're looking at, okay, why and how. And most of the time it's there's these qualities or these resources or whatever this man has that society looks as positives, right? From the woman's side, when you say, oh, well, this woman has all these guys lining up our door, us men look at that as like, okay, and Deborah down the street got the same thing. Cassie at the gym, Sarah at Starbucks, whatever. Like every dude is just like, you know, like a dog, like breathing over. So we don't look at, we like, okay, and other women look at that woman as, you know, some negative terms get thrown out. So that's why I think when we look at Klay Thompson's body count is probably significantly higher because his exposure to women, his environment, and he has qualities about him that women like. You know, we look at Megan Thee Stallion and say, okay, if her body count is high, what is that really saying about her? What is it saying? Much is it saying like, oh, she has these qualities that guys really like? I mean, is it? You know, that's how I look at it from a society perspective, why men don't challenge other men who have high body, because we're looking at him like, why challenge him? We need to be learning from him in a way. That's just how men look at it, right? Mm-hmm. From the women, it's like, oh, women looking at Megan Thee Stallion is like, oh my God, what do I need to be learning from you to get all these men? I doubt that. That's not how they look at it. And that's just my perspective on that. I think it's fair, though. I think that's fair. I'm not saying it's right, but I think it's fair.
It's from a male's perspective, and that's your
perspective. Right. From a male's perspective, right?
Okay. Yeah. So
now I want to hear first from a female perspective.
Okay. Well, I have one word as to why it's like that. Actually, one word, and no, I have more than one word. But the first word I'm going to say is patriarchy. Mm-hmm. Patriarchy, and then toxic masculinity. And unfortunately, just like systemic racism, everybody is affected by the patriarchy and toxic masculinity. Mm-hmm. It's not just one group that is affected. In this scenario, while Klay is lifted up, no matter what he did or didn't do, and of course we don't know because we over here and that's their business, Meg would continue to be dogged out by other toxic masculine men who think that it's cool to do so, to think that it's okay that he has maybe X amount of body count, or that maybe he actually isn't a nice guy. We again don't know because I don't know them, and treats women or people poorly, you know, and nevertheless, because of who he is, he gets the pass, he gets the bro pass, you know. But that's all back to the patriarchy. And I think that as we continue to have these conversations in a healthy way, that one of the things that we want to be mindful of with love is, what are we doing with the privilege that we have to help dismantle those harmful narratives? Because they're harmful, you know, and whether it's affecting you, or you have kids, or you're going to eventually have a grandchild, grandgirl, grandboy, what have you, or just mentoring kids today, right? Helping them see these narratives for what they are. They are harmful. Mm-hmm. You know, at the end of the day, whether male or female, we're human, which means you're going to make some human mistakes, right? You're going to do some things we all have that we go, oh my gosh, woo, child. You know, I know personally, Gen Xers, many of us, we're all like, thank goodness the internet did not exist. Making our day, right? Yes. We are happy, okay? All right. You know, and I can know from my first marriage, hey, you know, we were very, very toxic. I cheated, he cheated, we all cheated. We was a whole hot mess, you know. It was. We were not in the healing space that I'm in now. I'm not the same person that I was more than 30 years ago, you know? And so it's just a very real reality that you're human, you're going to make some mistakes, you're going to do some things. Unfortunately, it is a lot of toxic, oftentimes patriarchal views that hold these things over people's head forever and ever and ever, you know, and that's not safe, healing, healthy, or whole. It is definitely not how we grow and support people's growth, which is another reason why women like Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion get so much slack. Um, because we want to go back to when she was a stripper. We don't want to look at how she took the knowledge that she was getting from the people coming in, decided to change lanes, make something of herself in a different capacity, and how she's been on a roll ever since in an industry that was saying that she couldn't do it. You know, we don't want to honor that part. You know, we don't want to honor the part of Meg constantly challenging the status quo as a woman in an industry that tries to chew them up and spit them out. She ain't been spit out yet, you know, but we will jump on the bandwagon. I say we as a society, when this man breaks her heart publicly and make it like it's okay. And that is steeped in the patriarchy. And as we as a people, again, our human connectedness, who are looking to do a little bit more every day to uplift each other, those are narratives that with love, we would want to be willing to challenge.
Yeah. But in so many circumstances, we're not. And we're often challenged in a negative way, because society does bring about these norms. Whereas if we see someone else treat someone else wrong, that triggers us to do the same thing to that person. We don't tend to uplift that person or support that person in creating those boundaries that they need, and making them feel like they are loved. They do, that you are who you think you are. So I think that is a social norm now. And going back to people pleasing, like and as I stated before, you know how exhausting it is to be in character 24/7. So just imagine if you're a celebrity, you're in character 24/7. Even in your relationships, you are a character, because you are the person that person has. When you have to recognize too, Meg, Cardi B, and anybody, even normal people. Whenever a guy sees you, and if you're going to work, you're a corporate woman, you're a nurse, you're in uniform. If he has a fetish for nurses, people in uniforms, whatever your fetish is, that's what that person falls in love with. Whether he sees you made up every day going to work, you meet that person on Loyola Porters or whatever, going to your office. The person who he sees every day is the person he's in love with. The person that you see on television is the person that sparked your interest, that character of the person, not the actual being.
And that goes to me right back into the importance of getting to know ourselves, being intentional about those quiet moments that we need in order to be still enough to get to know ourselves. Because when we do that, then we're not connecting to personas. We're connecting to people on a spiritual level. You see them differently, and you start to honor their humanity because you're able to connect with that part of themselves, as opposed to the other things. The other thing is, as we continue to break away from people pleasing, not giving into those harmful norms and narratives, and we're doing the inner work, then we are also making sure that as we show up authentically, it helps to give other people permission to do the same. And so now it becomes that ripple effect where other people start to realize, oh, I have permission to take my mask off too. Because we talk about the mask, but just like you were saying about the norms, many of us were forced and learned how to put those masks on for survival in childhood, And again, that's where that people pleasing starts. It started there. We just didn't wake up one day and say, this is how I'm going to show up. From all the little things, all the subliminal, direct and indirect messages you got as a child, That's where it started. And so to give other people the courage to take off their mask, sometimes we have to be bold enough to be intentional and take ours off.
And that's the word of today, and being intentional about yourself. That is the word of today. So, y'all, tonight was a very interesting conversation. I want to thank you, Coach Cassie, for coming on and joining us for this very interesting, loving conversation. I can just feel you just such a healing human being. And I would just like to invite you back again so we can have another conversation, because I think you add so much to wind down as we're having these conversations. You bring a different perspective to things. And I want you guys out there to like, subscribe, and share, and meet us here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. where we have these conversations that, you know, we're afraid to have, that we need to have, and we're putting these things out on the table where they're informational, and we all gonna heal here together. So good night. So all you healing and healed people out there, I'll see you guys next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Good night, y'all.
Good night.